Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and also welcome to the second session of our spring series Precisely tutorials, where we have a quick 30 minutes to learn on a very focused topic for your SAP automation. Today, we're going to talk all about how we can work with external systems to either validate your data or create your data included as a part of your business process, which is SAP focused. My name is Divya Kaivar. I manage the sales engineering team for the Automate product line in EMEA and APAC. And again, welcome to this session. I want to talk a little bit about the dataEnsure platform, which is an enterprise-grade web form and workflow automation application to map end-to-end business processes to collect all the stages of data initiation, collection, validation, and posting. Typically, when we talk about posting data through this platform, it's very SAP-centric. So you could be creating records, which are master data or transactional data in nature, either through SAP GUI or Fiori. You could also work with transactional data. So any data object that needs to go through a business process, you can use this application to build and map out that business process. It is a user-friendly application. It uses simple drag and drop techniques. It's citizen development built for business users, and also approaches a role-based menu, gives you a role-based approach to help handle the different participants and the role and the persona they play in any given business process. When we talk about end-to-end business processes, SAP could be the main system of record. However, we always talk about organizations running multiple different applications that take part or have a role to play in that business process. And today, it's all about how we can handle connections or integrations to those third-party applications for whether you want to validate your data or create the data there, just fetch or get that data out of that system. And we would like to talk to you about how we can enable that and make that happen through the auditability platform. So the focus today are two key areas. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Precisely APIs, which are prepackaged APIs that we provide within the Evolve platform, which helps you with geo addressing and address validation and communication data validation. And we will see how that is done. And I'd also like to show you the REST API integration, where we can integrate to a completely different system of record. In this example today, we will be talking about Salesforce, but it could be any system of record that can communicate through APIs. So with that set stage, I want to open up a poll so we can understand who you are as an audience and where your interest lies. So I'm going to launch the poll, and on your screen, you will be able to see the poll questions on the right-hand side, where you have that question about which API topic would be the most interest to you. And again, it's a multiple choice question, so you can answer or tick the box to the multiple choice that you have here. I'm going to keep the poll open for a few seconds longer just to see how we can see. Okay, we are receiving the votes come through. Okay, some of these questions are also asked so that we can plan our future sessions as well. I'm just going to keep this open for another 10 seconds, and then we will close the poll. So we have address verification in onboarding suppliers, customers, that kind of a process, integrating third-party systems with REST APIs, data quality rules via API, and the OData API integration as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the results that I've got here. And if we can just share that, please, Wendy. Okay, we have 4 votes for address verification and onboarding. That is the topic that we are going to talk about today. So I'll go ahead and do that. There is a large number of votes for integrating third-party systems with REST APIs, as well as the data quality rules and OData integration. So that is pretty good for us because we will be covering the integrating third-party systems today with REST APIs. We have another session next Tuesday. Please do join and register for that, where we will be covering the OData API integration. We are not touching the data quality rules via API, but it's great to know these that there is an interest for that. We will come up with that in one of the sessions in the future. So thank you very much for answering that, Paul. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the API framework layer that we offer within Evolve. So this can integrate or interact with RESTful APIs, REST APIs, to automate that end-to-end business process. So you can effectively and efficiently integrate these as a part of your business process and seamlessly have both that SAP as well as a third-party integration in here. So this could again be a system of record, or it could be a cloud service, and it's catered for helping you streamline your master data process or a business process that is in SAP. Again, you will see a little screenshot here which talks about data sources, where you could add this as a REST API connection within the Evolve platform. There are mainly 3 types of REST APIs that we provide within the platform. I want to talk a little bit about each of these. To the left, we have the SAP Data API. Now think of this where you have your data sitting in a third-party application and it's ready to go into SAP. There is no further enrichment of the data that is needed, and you really don't want a middleman to click on a button or post that data through to SAP, and you want that to happen automatically. So this is really where you have the SAP Data API come into play, where the data from a third-party application can be automatically called and posted into SAP without any manual intervention using this API. So think of this as a bot that you could call. We also have a digital access API. Now, this is catering to those solutions where you want it to use as a trigger. Now, an event has occurred in a third-party system of yours, after which you would want to kick off a scenario, or it could be a workflow, or it could be a document to be posted into SAP, like an Excel file with the data on it. So that is what we can trigger using a digital access API. An example could be that you've created a customer in your Salesforce system, and you also want to create it as a business partner in your S/4HANA system, but that requires a workflow for the data collection and validation steps, and that trigger can be from your Salesforce system after the customer creation to initiate a process. The third one here is the third-party API support, which is our focus today. So this is what we will be using, which as REST APIs to be called from within an Evolve form to connect to those systems for getting the data or putting the data into that particular system. So we will be focusing on that in detail today. Again, today's scenarios are 2 key areas. So we want to, first of all, get a little glimpse into the Precisely APIs. These are actually leveraging the Precisely's Data Integrity Suite API. It is our SaaS application. It has the geo-addressing APIs built into it, which are pre-packaged into Evolve, and you could then work with it. Again, typical uses would be an address verification. You could do an email or a phone verification. And there are different tiers to this, and it is licensed per API call. The second part is where we will be looking at integrating to third-party applications using REST API here, and we can look at bidirectional data movement. So we can do a couple of different functions of the API to get the data and then post it as well. This is a feature that's available for our Evolve customers as an out-of-the-box capability. And it can be integrating to non-SAP applications here as a key ask. So talking a little bit about Precisely API, as I mentioned, these are pre-built APIs. So there is a section within Evolve and under connections where you'll have a list of all these APIs shown to us. There are different authentication options available to us, and you can see that you can use this for most systems of record for authenticating using OAuth, Microsoft Graph API, OAuth as well. Location data is everywhere. So why is this actually important? So when we talk about scenarios where you're onboarding vendors, customers, and you have address information there, it's key to have the correct address in terms of the communication aspect, but also for those companies or organizations which do deliveries and you want to map that address to the last mile to avoid errors or issues in deliveries, it is very handy to have that accuracy within your location data itself. And that's really the purpose of having a solution built in with that address verification and the completeness check of that address itself. So there are a few different services that we provide in the geo addressing APIs. So I will be showing you the ones which are mentioned here. So the address autocomplete, the verification, as well as the geocoding. There are different service levels as well. Again, if you choose the essentials, it will just give you like a street name address search. However, if you do go with the premium service, you will have something called the precisely ID, which is a unique ID for that address that will also be published on that data set. Each of these services, again, as you see, has a scale of functions, but the autocomplete really helps a user to complete an address when they start typing in a few characters of the address. The verification is to check whether there is this address can be delivered to, whether it is complete, is it actually a physical address? And the geocoding here gives us the location details. So you have sort of a latitude and longitude that you could map onto on a map for this. And again, this is a service that is very useful for that exact point of where you would want to deliver. A customer scenario could be that you want to deliver into a warehouse, and the warehouse has 20 different doors and entrances, and this will help you point to that exact door where you need to deliver a certain goods. Okay, so with that, I'd like to jump into a demonstration. So I have now opened up the Evolve application here. It's in its vanilla view, but you could have portals or landing pages designed to call out different solutions. I'm going to go into the template section, which will give us all the different solutions that have been put together. So these are all form solutions, but you could also have Excel solutions with workflows. So let me just quickly relog in. It's the beauty of a live demo. I did have a technical glitch just 5 minutes before the start of this. So all the things I had kept ready have been closed down. So there we go. So we now have all the different solutions opened up here. So I now want to start off with this solution here, where I want to create a business partner in an S/4HANA system with the ability to validate the addresses. Now, this is a form that has been completely designed using the solution developer application that we provide within Evolve, where you can design the layout of the form, you can dictate the styling of it, you can decide which fields go where, you can also decide how many views you will have for how many participants and so on. You can attach language packs. It also has different sections to collect the different fields of information that would eventually go into SAP. I'm going to say I want to set up a customer. I'm also going to just put in a detail here, put in all this information. And this section is where you will be seeing the address autocomplete function. So you will also see here that this service is available to a large number of countries. But if I just choose to go in and pick one of these addresses here, you will see that all these addresses have now been completed based on the selection that is made here. So this is the autocomplete function, which is just carried out and printed the values in the different address fields of the city and the postcode and so on. We can go ahead and enter the data for each of these. And again, you'll see here that you could do it in multiple ways. I'm now typing in the email address, or I've just selected something. And if it is an invalid email, it will flag that up as a validation message to say that is an invalid email address and you need to correct. Of course, the form can also have that as a mandatory field. So it insists that you get this value right before you proceed further. So I'm now going to put in another email address here, so you will see that I don't have that message anymore. And should I go in and look at the email validation results, it does say that this is a valid email, and it also shows me who the provider of that email is, and all those other details here. A quick couple of clicks here. So we now have the details of the address auto-completed, but I also want to validate and check for the correctness of this address and also the completeness of it. So by the click of a button, when I say I want to validate the address, you will see here under this address validation results that precisely API call is made, and then I have a few other details captured here. Again, we are only showing a subset of details. It does capture a whole lot of other information. What's key here is to understand the confidence score. So confidence score could be anywhere between 0 and 100, and it's closer to 100, then it's a high confidence address. And we also have this unique precisely code that you have here, which gives you the detail about this address in a code format. Again, I'm going to click on this geocoding here. So this adds the latitude and the longitude information for the address that we have just selected to work with. So various stages here. So each of the clicks that I'm doing is basically an API call that we're performing from within this form to the system. I'm going to not do the entire workflow, but I'm going to go ahead and submit this data here. Okay, we also need to complete a few other SAP information. So I'm just putting in the bank detail by selecting that information, and I'll carry it on. We've progressed with the workflow, and there are tasks that are created. So again, I can go in here as a manager to check for the request that has come my way, and I can action my approval. So I've got the details come here, and I now can do a duplicate check. And this is, in this case, it's checking SAP to see if there is a business partner already with the details that I've published. In this case, it says 0. And what I also can do is a VAT number check. In this case, we've retrieved a VAT number already, but you could also type that in, and you could also do another API call to fetch that VAT code and then do that check. I have a valid selected here, which means it's a valid VAT number, and I can go ahead and approve. I'm not going to go and complete this process, but you can see that there are other tasks that are created in the workflow. And in this workflow, we are in this particular stage. That's the flow that we worked with to create the business process. There are also buttons to interact with SAP. And again, if I just go ahead and do that, this creates the record in SAP. The key takeaway really is that you're checking for the correctness of data at the point of input and also validating it against an application outside of just SAP or the rules that you would add on a web form. A quick glimpse into how this works. I'm going to go ahead and open up the solution. This solution here is the behind the scenes of what I've just shown you. It has 3 parts. The solution section gives you a list of all the fields and the connections that this particular process is interacting with, including all the SAP interactions and any other. Within my data connections, you will see here that these are all the different API interactions that I have here. And if I just choose to edit it, you will see that it says this is a precisely API, and it is a post API, and it also provides you with the input-output schema that you could just copy and add here for the details. But the idea here is that you could just go in and add data connections, and then you select REST API or precisely API, and then start working with it. You can then drag and drop those fields on the form, and you also have a web service call button here, which would say that, okay, when I click on that button, say validate address, I now want to run that particular web service or the API connection through this form. I want to quickly point you that my colleague actually put a tip of the week. So for those of you who have further interest in how you would want to work with this, on our community, we have a page where we keep putting or publishing tips that you could go in and take a look at. And this has all the steps of how you can enable and use precisely APIs. We also have the API section here, like on our website, which gives you a quick idea about each of those and a whole lot of other APIs that we offer. So if you can click into any of them, you can again request for trial, and then you can see all the documentation, the schema details, the trying out the API is all given in here. Okay, I want to quickly move on to the next topic. We just saw the precisely APIs. I want to move on to the third-party API. Now, this is again, we will be looking into an evolve form, but what we will be doing are using APIs from other systems and making that third-party call to either get the data or put the data into that system of record. In this example, we will be looking at Salesforce, where I have the scenario of creating customers both in SAP as well as in Salesforce. So how do I enable a business process, an end-to-end business process for that data collection and validation, but eventually create the record in both systems is what we can see. Again, very typical that you would be running it in multiple systems. And this can actually be a very complex process automation. And we'd like to show you the strength of our applications to be able to do that in a seamless way. So going back again into the platform, I'm going to open up another solution. And you'll see here in this, it's again a form to create customers. So when it launches, you will see again typical different sections, different fields that you would capture for that data set on that form. And then we can start the business process. Now, this is the form here, and couple of different ways, right? So I could be saying that I want to add a new customer, or I want to update an existing record, or also probably mark it as an inactive. What I'll do is I want to add a customer, but I'm going to fetch the data out of my Salesforce system because I want to do a copy create kind of an activity. So I'm selecting one of the existing customers in Salesforce. So you'll see that it actually fetched the Salesforce ID, the account details, and all the information for that particular customer here. I want to say I want to actually create a new one. So I'll say that this is the detail I want. We can change any of this data. Now that's the copy or from a reference customer function, right? So you have a reference customer with a subset of data here, but you of course have the ability to change whatever you need to change. I'm going to just change a couple of attributes here. So I'll do that here. Again, these are lookup lists that could either come from SAP or it could also be an API call to get it straight from Salesforce. I also have the address information here. Again, we can validate the addresses. So I can also put in a different address. So I'm just going to put in a different one here. And then I'm going to validate the address, and you'll see here that it has corrected the address. It's completed the information. So I'll accept it. So you'll see that this is now updated it correctly. I'll also can say that both the shipping and the billing addresses are the same. I can attach supporting documents, and I can hit save. But in that example, I've done two different checks. So one is I've done a get API call to Salesforce to get the list of accounts out. And then I have also done the address verification like previously. This is an approval node. So again, typical business processes, when you're requesting for data creation, I now have a read-only view where I could say, yes, I'm happy with this to go ahead, and I'll approve it. So you'll now see that I have two tasks that are created for this process. One is to update Salesforce, and the other is to update SAP. So I'm going to go into the Salesforce one. So you'll see here that, again, I have a view of the form, which gives me all the details that are captured through the business process. And I now have a click of a button call, which is a post API to Salesforce to create this particular record. And that's my API success message coming up. And up here, I should also have my Salesforce ID. So if I just go in here, actually log in, just to give you a quick view, maybe not. Okay, we are logging into our Salesforce system, and what I'd like to do is just use that ID and check if that record is created. So you'll see that the data has been created with this information. I changed a couple of them, right? So insurance, net 30, these are all Salesforce fields, and then that pick list came from Salesforce, has gone through, and that's the process done here. And similarly, I, of course, have that native integration that we offer to go into SAP to post that data out there. Okay, so that's pretty much what we wanted to show you today in terms of the two solutions. Again, if you do have questions that you'd like to ask, please use the Q&A section here to drop them in. We're happy to answer those straight away, but we also send it out after the session, both the recording of this as well as the answers to the questions. But hopefully that was useful for you to see and understand how the API connections are made within an Evolve form, and how you could call the REST API function as well as the Precisely APIs within your business process. We'll give it a few seconds to see if you have any questions. We are happy to take them all. So I have a question that's come up, which is this available in the current released version, or is it planned future released? Both the solutions that I showed you are available in the current release version. Now, the REST APIs in itself has been available for a few versions now. It's been available for a little over 2 years or 3 years now. But the Precisely API, if you want to work with it as a inbuilt feature, then it's available from 25.2. So it works with that. We also have another question here. How does Evolve fit into clean core or side-by-side extension architecture? The Evolve application is completely clean core certified, and it also supports the clean core strategies that you have within SAP. So we help you automate the business processes as they are designed. You're not changing, reconfiguring, you're not building any code into the SAP system to be able to do that. We also have another question. Are APIs suitable for real-time integration, or are they primarily designed for asynchronous use cases? Both, actually. So you could use it for real-time integration. So if you want to do a quick check and receive that answer straight away, we can do that. But we also can run it in background mode and async mode as well. Thank you for those questions. And again, also for attending the session today. I hope it was useful. We are coming up with the final one of our 3-part Spring Series tutorials, which is happening next week on the 5th of May. And the topic for that is how we can achieve OData automation with your S/4HANA applications using OData APIs. So, which was one of the questions we had today in the poll, and then we did receive a large number of votes for that. So please do register and attend that session. We will be covering how you can automate OData APIs through our Studio application and take it through for data management. Thank you again for joining this session. Until next time.